There is a moment in life when you pause and begin to question, is this truly who I am? And in that moment of silence, a seed of transformation is planted. Many people live their lives chained to an identity they never consciously chose. They carry labels, habits, emotions, thinking these patterns define them, but identity is not fixed. It is fluid like water, and just as water can carve through stone, you too have the ability to reshape yourself. The question is not whether change is possible. The question is, are you willing to become uncomfortable enough to meet your true self? In today's talk, I will share with you a strategy, a path not built on tricks or quick fixes, but on ancient principles aligned with modern understanding. This is not just about motivation. This is about inner discipline. This is about choosing awareness over automatic behavior. This is about reclaiming your power. Let us begin with clarity. Let us walk the path of transformation. Not tomorrow, but now. The foundation of true personality change lies in awareness. Without awareness, transformation remains a concept, an idea floating in the mind, never touching the ground of reality. Many people wish to change. They desire confidence, discipline, calmness, or power. But what they often overlook is the understanding that you cannot change what you are not aware of. Everything begins with the capacity to observe yourself clearly, without judgment. This self-observation is not about criticism or self-blame. It is the silent noticing of your patterns, your reactions, your thoughts, and your behaviors throughout the day. Most individuals are living on autopilot. They wake up, perform their routines, engage in conversations, handle responsibilities, and end their day without ever truly watching themselves. The same emotional responses are triggered, the same thoughts play on repeat, and the same outcomes follow. In this loop, people begin to believe this is who they are, but it is not who they are. It is who they have been conditioned to become. The first step in any real change is to bring light to the unconscious. For this, stillness is required, silence is required. You must create space in your day, not to distract yourself, but to meet yourself. Sit quietly, close your eyes, observe your breath, watch your thoughts arise and fall. Do not engage, do not resist, simply witness. This act of witnessing breaks the cycle of identification. When you no longer say, I am an angry person, but instead, I notice anger arising in me, a shift has already begun. You are no longer trapped by the emotion. You are the observer of the emotion, and the observer is always free. In the traditions of internal martial arts and Zen practices, the practitioner is taught to return to the breath again and again. Why? Because the breath is the bridge. It connects the body and the mind. It brings awareness back to the present moment. When you are present, even if for just a few minutes, your unconscious patterns lose their grip. And when this happens consistently, your personality begins to soften. The rigid structures built on fear, past experience, and social conditioning begin to melt away. What emerges is not something new, but something original. Your true self is not something you create, it is something you uncover. With this understanding, every moment becomes an opportunity to train. When you feel frustration rise while speaking to someone, observe it. When you feel fear before taking action, observe it. When you feel the pull of distraction while working, observe it. Do not judge, do not react, just observe. This practice builds inner strength. It sharpens your mind like a blade, precise and aware. Over time, the reactive tendencies lose their power, and what remains is a personality no longer shaped by emotion, but guided by wisdom. Another essential aspect of this process is honesty. You must become brutally honest with yourself about the way you behave and why you behave that way. This honesty is not meant to bring shame, it is meant to bring clarity. When you see clearly that your procrastination is not laziness, but fear of failure, then you can begin to address the fear. When you recognize that your need for approval is not a character flaw, but a wound from the past, then you can begin to heal. But healing begins only when truth is seen. The surface must be still for the reflection to be clear. Personality is not just what others see. It is the sum total of how you respond to life, and every response is a choice, conscious or unconscious. By training your awareness, by watching your inner world without interference, you begin to rewire your nervous system. The patterns that once controlled you become visible and therefore changeable. It is a process that requires patience. It requires humility, but it is the only process that leads to real change. Your surroundings, your friends, your habits, even your thoughts, these are mirrors. They reflect your current state of being. If you want to change your personality, start observing the reflections. What do your habits say about your values? What do your relationships say about your boundaries? What does your daily routine say about your discipline? These are not questions to be answered quickly. They are to be sat with, reflected on, meditated upon, because the answers you find will not come from your mind. They will come from your inner knowing. And that knowing is where change truly begins. Change becomes sustainable only when discipline is cultivated from within, not imposed from outside. Many people attempt to change their personality by forcing themselves into new behaviors, by copying others, or by chasing trends. But this type of change is temporary. It collapses under pressure because it lacks a stable foundation. Real transformation begins when you understand that discipline is not punishment. It is an act of love toward yourself. It is the structure you build to hold your potential. Without discipline, your intention remains a wish. With discipline, your intention becomes direction. The strategy to transform your personality must be rooted in deliberate action. But this action cannot be random. It must align with your values and your long-term vision. Begin by asking yourself, what kind of person do you want to become? What are the qualities you admire? Is it calmness, decisiveness, emotional strength, clarity, or consistency? Once you identify these qualities, the next step is to design actions that embody them. You cannot think your way into a new personality. You must act your way into it, one small step at a time. If you want to become disciplined, begin waking up when you say you will. If you want to become confident, start speaking with intention. If you want to become resilient, expose yourself to controlled discomfort. These actions, though simple, are seeds, and when repeated daily, they begin to rewrite your self-image. Your mind is always watching what you do. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your mind takes note. It begins to trust you, and every time you break a promise to yourself, your mind also takes note. It begins to doubt you. This internal scorekeeping shapes how you see yourself. So if you want to change your personality, you must begin by restoring this inner trust. It does not require grand gestures. It requires small, consistent victories. Go to the gym not for 3 hours once a week, but for 20 minutes daily. Read 2 pages a day instead of 20 in one sitting. Speak the truth in one conversation instead of remaining silent in every one. These are the building blocks of change, not because of their size, but because of their direction. One of the most misunderstood elements in transformation is the role of repetition. People give up too quickly because they expect fast results. But the personality you currently have was shaped over years of repeated thought and behavior. It will not dissolve in days. It will resist. It will pull you back toward what is familiar. This resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of progress. It means you are stepping outside the boundaries of who you used to be. The discomfort you feel is growth trying to take root. Welcome it. Move through it. Discipline is the tool that allows you to keep going, even when your motivation fades. It is also important to understand the link between discipline and identity. If you see yourself as someone who is inconsistent, you will act in inconsistent ways. But if you begin to act in disciplined ways, even before you believe in them, your identity starts to shift. You become someone who values effort, someone who values structure. This identity change is subtle but powerful. Over time, you no longer have to force discipline. It becomes natural. It becomes part of who you are. But it starts with repetition, doing the right thing even when it's difficult, even when no one is watching. Another aspect of internal discipline is controlling your environment. Your personality is influenced heavily by what surrounds you. The people you speak to, the content you consume, the habits you observe, all of it programs your mind. If you want to become more focused, eliminate distractions from your space. If you want to become calmer, avoid environments that trigger reactivity. Discipline is not only about what you do, it is also about what you remove. This simplification creates room for your better self to emerge. Track your progress, not to judge yourself, but to stay aware. When you know what you did today that moved you closer to your vision, you remain connected to your purpose, and purpose fuels discipline like nothing else. It reminds you why the effort matters. It reminds you that your actions are not isolated. They are shaping the person you are becoming. Your discipline is the bridge between the old version of you and the version you are choosing to step into. Every day that you stay on the path, that bridge becomes stronger. Your new personality does not arrive suddenly. It arrives gradually, in layers, in behaviors, in the choices you repeat over and over until they become second nature. In the process of changing your personality, one of the most powerful strategies is learning to detach from your past identity. Most people live in repetition not because they lack willpower, but because they are unknowingly loyal to the version of themselves they have always been. They hold on to labels, roles, and past experiences that have become familiar. These identities feel safe, even when they are limiting. The mind clings to the known because stepping into the unknown creates discomfort. Yet without shedding the past, no true transformation can take place. You cannot walk into a new version of yourself while dragging the weight of who you used to be. The past is not just a memory, it becomes a framework through which you interpret life. If you were once told you were not good enough, you may carry that belief into every interaction. If you once failed in a public setting, you may avoid new opportunities to protect yourself from the same outcome. These past experiences shape your reactions, your choices, and ultimately, your personality. But the truth is, the past only has power when you constantly feed it with attention. The moment you stop defining yourself by your history, you begin to create space for something new to grow. Detachment from the past does not mean forgetting your experiences or pretending they never happened. It means breaking the emotional bond that keeps you tied to old beliefs and outdated patterns. It means recognizing that while your past may have influenced you, it does not define you. This realization can be incredibly liberating. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the pain you endured. You are not the version of yourself who reacted out of fear or insecurity. Those were moments, chapters in your story, not the whole book. When you understand this, you stop narrating your life through the lens of who you were and start focusing on who you are becoming. To support this detachment, you must become conscious of your self-talk. The words you repeat in your mind carry immense power. If you constantly tell yourself, "I've always been this way," or "This is just who I am," you reinforce the identity you are trying to escape. But when you begin to speak to yourself with awareness and intention, your inner language starts to align with your desired transformation. Replace limiting phrases with empowering ones. Instead of "I always overthink," shift to "I am learning to trust my decisions." Instead of "I can't stay focused," say "I am developing stronger concentration every day." This shift in internal dialogue may seem small, but it rewires the brain over time. It sends a message that you are no longer loyal to the old version of yourself. Another important element is forgiveness, not only of others, but of yourself. Many people resist change because they carry guilt or shame about who they used to be. These emotions create a heavy burden that blocks progress. But change cannot happen when you are at war with yourself. You must come to a place of peace with your past actions, recognizing that they were part of your growth. You made the best choices you could with the awareness you had at the time. As your awareness expands, your choices improve. This is the natural progression of personal evolution. Surrounding yourself with new environments and new experiences can accelerate this process. When you step into situations that your old self would avoid, you begin to stretch beyond your limits. When you engage with people who see your potential instead of your past, your self-image begins to evolve. The unfamiliar becomes your training ground. Every moment you respond differently than you used to, you reclaim your power. These small shifts begin to accumulate, forming a new internal identity that is based on intention rather than memory. Through this practice, the past gradually loses its grip, and the path toward a transformed personality becomes not only possible, but inevitable. A crucial element in the strategy to change your personality is conscious exposure to challenge. Growth does not occur in comfort. It arises when the body is stretched, the mind is tested, and the emotions are confronted. Many people wish to transform their personality, but simultaneously avoid the discomfort required to initiate that change. They desire confidence but shy away from difficult conversations. They want mental strength but escape from solitude. They hope for self-discipline but indulge in instant gratification. This conflict between desire and avoidance is where progress is either made or lost. To truly evolve, you must step deliberately into conditions that trigger your weaknesses, not to suffer, but to sharpen. The friction is necessary because without resistance, there is no adaptation. Personality is not something fixed. It is forged in repetition and reaction. Every time you respond to a difficult situation, you reinforce or rewire your internal framework. If you consistently respond with fear, your mind associates discomfort with danger. But if you learn to stay present, to act despite the fear, a new association is formed. Discomfort becomes the gateway to power. This shift only occurs through direct experience. Reading about courage is not enough. You must practice it. Listening to ideas about discipline is useful, but not transformative. You must test it. Challenge reveals the parts of you that still hold back. And it also reveals the parts of you that are ready to break free. To begin applying this, observe your daily life for small opportunities to challenge yourself. It does not have to be extreme. Wake up earlier than you usually do. Speak in situations where you would normally stay silent. Finish a task even when motivation has faded. Sit in silence when you feel the urge to distract yourself. These small acts of challenge create a ripple effect. They begin to shift your identity from someone who avoids to someone who confronts. Each time you engage with resistance rather than retreat, your self-respect deepens. Your confidence becomes rooted in experience, not theory. Over time, this begins to reshape your emotional posture. You become calmer in chaos, grounded in uncertainty, and resilient under pressure. One of the most powerful effects of embracing challenge is the clarity it brings. When you remove comfort as your main reference point, your decisions start to align with growth instead of ease. You stop asking, "Is this easy?" and begin asking, "Will this make me better?" That change in perspective sharpens your focus. It removes distraction. It dissolves the habit of comparison. You no longer need to prove anything to others because you are too focused on proving something to yourself. This internal orientation is what builds unshakable character. You are no longer dependent on external validation. You find validation in the way you handle difficulty. Another key part of this process is learning to breathe through discomfort. Whether the challenge is physical, mental, or emotional, your breath is always the anchor. Most people, when challenged, either tense up or escape into distraction. But if you can stay with the breath, even when it's uncomfortable, you build a bridge between reaction and response. This pause is where transformation happens. It gives you space to choose a new way of being. It breaks the automatic loop of your old personality and allows a new version of yourself to emerge. This is the internal training. This is where the real work is done, not in front of others, but in the silent moments where no one is watching. Eventually, challenge becomes something you welcome, not because it is easy, but because you recognize what it unlocks. You begin to seek out opportunities to stretch your limits. You stop shrinking yourself to fit the familiar and instead rise to meet the unknown. This orientation toward challenge rewires your nervous system, sharpens your perception, and strengthens your sense of identity. You stop being defined by your circumstances and start being defined by your capacity to rise above them. Each challenge becomes a stepping stone in the architecture of your new self. Change is not something that happens by chance. It is something you choose with intention, patience, and discipline. The transformation of your personality is not about becoming someone else. It is about uncovering the stronger, wiser, more focused version of who you already are beneath layers of fear, habit, and conditioning. Through awareness, you begin to see clearly. Through discipline, you begin to act with consistency. Through detachment, you free yourself from the past. And through challenge, you forge a new identity grounded in strength and clarity. This path is not easy, but it is real. It does not promise comfort, but it promises truth. The strategy to change your personality is not a secret, it is a practice. And the more you live it, the more your life begins to reflect the person you are truly meant to become.